Where did pirates repair their ships and find shelter, and what surprising places became their home? Let's dive right in.
Pirates, much like their ships, come in all shapes and sizes. From pagan Vikings to the Barbary corsairs, they've raided and looted throughout the ages. But one place was home to the most infamous of them all, the Caribbean. Now, unlike most, the pirates of the Caribbean, no, not those ones, the actual pirates of the Caribbean started out with some semblance of legality. You see this? This is a letter of marque. It is a license given by the state to a private person, allowing them free rein to attack and capture enemy vessels, in exchange for splitting part of the bounty with the crown.
So basically, pirates were like Uber drivers, but for looting. That letter of marque turned random sailors into state-sponsored hitmen, except instead of surge pricing, it was sink a ship, get a cut. What's wild is this wasn't fringe. European empires actively used it as a budget navy. Imagine governments today handing out licenses for illegal hacking sprees or drone piracy on Amazon deliveries. Turns out the Caribbean wasn't just rum and parrots, it was a legalized crime economy.
Here you go, Gov. Thank you very much. It was essentially a way to privatize war, and that's why the licensees were called privateers. But when these letters were withdrawn or cancelled, the now unemployed privateers weren't always so eager to take down their flags and return to the mainland. Some of them just really loved sailing the seven seas. Wind in my hair. Cue the Titanic. And so when their letters were revoked, they'd hoist the black flag and would continue doing what they did best. So basically, most pirates were self-employed privateers. In the case of the Caribbean, many originally worked for the French and English empires, which would frequently raid Spanish ships, hauling gold back to Spain. Now, the bounty was immense, but it didn't always come easy, so unsurprisingly, privateer ships were in constant need of repair. Pirate ships were a similar story, perhaps even more so actually, because apart from the wear and tear of storms and battles, pirate ships also had to be quick enough to outrun other privateers. Now, the best way to speed up your ship is by cleaning it. Not the whole thing, of course, just the hull. You see, seaweed and barnacles love attaching themselves to a ship's hull, and this actually slows the ship down quite a lot. And you also have the constant threat of shipworms that eat away the wood.
Man, this bit is gold. Ex-privateers basically said, retirement plan? Nah, piracy sounds funnier, and the way SideQuest animates it makes the whole history lesson feel like a sketch show. I love how their style leans into the silliness. It's very unique. Shout out to them.
So every few months, pirate ships need cleaning and repair. But here's the thing. It's not like you could just show up at any odd port, fix your ship, and go on your merry way. No, pirates could afford no such luxury. Instead, they had to fix their ships by careening them. This meant finding a nice beach on some uninhabited island where you could park your ship at high tide and intentionally tip it on one side so you could repair it. Sometimes these repairs would last weeks, during which time the pirates were under constant threat of a Royal Navy ship stumbling upon them and blasting them to smithereens. Fire! This high risk meant that pirates would pay handsomely to any port willing to take them in. And that's how ports like Tortuga, Port Royal, and Nassau came about.
Careening always cracks me up. Imagine the most feared outlaws of the seas just rolling their ship onto a beach like it's a beached whale spa day. And yeah, weeks of sitting around praying the Navy didn't show up, that's basically the pirate version of leaving your car jacked up in a sketchy neighborhood. And of course, cash-hungry ports like Nassau were basically the original shady, pirate-friendly garages.
Indeed, the most successful pirates throughout history have always had some sort of base to call home. The Vikings had their fjords, while the Barbary corsairs had ports along the North African coast. Of course, these bases weren't just places to fix your ships. They were also hubs for information, trading, networking, and of course, endless debauchery. Easy, Tiger, it's a family show. Now keep in mind that these bases were always reliant upon the tacit approval of the great naval powers at the time. France and England in the case of the Caribbean, and the Ottoman Empire for the Mediterranean. This approval lasted for as long as the privateers and pirates were useful, and Tortuga, specifically, was very useful. Its key location on the northwestern tip of Hispaniola made it hotly contested between the French and the Spanish, and indeed the island would change ownership no less than 8 times in the early 1600s. To most pirates, this uncertainty was not good for business, but they would soon find a much more lucrative arrangement in nearby Jamaica. You see, in 1655, the English conquered Jamaica from the Spanish, but their forces were stretched thin, and they didn't really have the resources to defend the island. The newly installed governor of Jamaica, however, got a bright idea. He invited the Tortuga pirates to come over to Port Royal and make it their main base.
Pirates having home bases feels almost wholesome, like Vikings with their fjords or Corsairs with their coastal hangouts. But then you realize these places doubled as repair shops, black markets, and 24/7 frat parties. The kicker? They only existed because empires allowed them, as long as the looting benefited the right flag.
In doing so, he not only got the pirates on his side, he also made Port Royal practically unassailable, for it quickly became the greatest pirate haven the world had ever seen. "Arr, how you be? Oh, I be good, thank you very much. Arr, 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 woof, arr." For a brief moment, Caribbean piracy experienced a golden age, until a massive earthquake struck right at the center of Port Royal, killing 2,000 people and sinking about 2/3 of the town beneath the sea. The few surviving pirates praised God for sparing their lives, only to be washed away by the ensuing tsunami that obliterated whatever was left of Port Royal. To most, this was about as clear a sign of divine punishment as one can get, and indeed, this event did mark the beginning of the end for Caribbean piracy. Of course, there are always those who don't take a hint, and these stragglers actually banded together to create a new base on the sparsely populated Bahamas.
Port Royal really pulled a peak too soon moment, like turning into the Las Vegas of piracy before Mother Nature rage quit the whole thing. That earthquake swallowing 2/3 of the city feels almost mythic, like Atlantis, but with more rum breath. And the surviving pirates thanking God only to be yeeted by a tsunami seconds later? That's divine comedic timing. Naturally, instead of seeing it as a warning, the leftovers just shrugged and said, "New HQ, boys," and set up shop in the Bahamas. Peak pirate denial.
There, the English had abandoned their only major settlement, Nassau, after a Franco-Spanish attack in 1703. The pirates moved in about 3 years later and established their very own pirate republic, without the patronage of any country, and where the only law was pirate code. Somewhat surprisingly, this audacious experiment lasted a full decade before being violently suppressed by the British. Ah, the British, suppressing everything that is fun except for the Great British Chip, Britain's contribution to world cuisine. At which point, piracy in the Caribbean truly began its terminal decline. Oh well, at least we got a few good movies out of it. Well, my friends, thank you for watching. I hope I haven't discouraged you from hoisting the black flag yourself, even though we're now 3 centuries past the time it was truly worth it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, of course. And we'll see each other again in 2 weeks for the next turbulently tempestuous installment of SideQuest, me hearties. Arr.
The Pirate Republic in Nassau was basically the world's first chaotic startup. No investors, no rules, just a bunch of guys with boats and way too much rum. It's insane that it lasted 10 years, especially since the whole governing system boiled down to pirate code sounds good enough. But of course, Britain came in like the fun police, shutting it down the way they've historically shut down, well, pretty much everything that isn't tea or cricket. Still, this short-lived utopia gave us the blueprint for every rebellious outlaw fantasy that came after. SideQuest did an amazing job with this video. Seriously, the storytelling and animation are top tier. The link is in the description, so definitely check it out. As for the next video, let's just say it'll dive into a world where things are not exactly what they seem. Stay nerdy.